Welcome into Milky Way Wednesday, guys. It's time to talk Milky Way. And the cool thing about it is that we're getting back to some of the fun parts of saying what went well and what didn't go well about actually going out. So let's start Milky Way Wednesday the way we always do and be right back. Planning, capturing, post-processing. Wow, Milky Way Wednesday. And so right here today, we're actually going to show you a little bit of post-processing. It's not going to be intense. I just want to show you guys some examples of what's going on. So let's see what's going on with the chat right now. Oh, I showed you the Earth. We'll come back to that in a sec. Hey guys, everybody. A lot of new comments out there. Still here, even though I heard the world ended. My boss would let me go. Kirk says the world ended. I didn't catch any news today. Is there something going on about the world being ended? So today we're talking about a location that Brenda and I just went last weekend and spent time out in Canyonlands doing Milky Way photography in the Canyonlands. So those of you who were out here on the chat, comments coming in right here. If you have any questions for me, hit me up with all caps. Otherwise, I'll let your guys' conversation just go on and enjoy this hangout with me for the next half hour. If you have any questions, make sure you hit the all caps. Otherwise, I will not see it. And you know what, sometimes, even though, Facebook and Instagram were down. Facebook was down. I tried to announce this and it had issues. So that's too bad. Maybe if we're lucky, Facebook will be down permanently and we won't have to worry about it anymore. So the world ended, Mary Beth says. Yes, but you know what? The world is still a fantastic place. And I'm going to show you guys a very fantastic place right here. So if you guys know the Earth. No, if you guys know Utah and you know that there's 5 national parks, so one of them mentioned is Canyonlands National Park. You probably think, okay, I know Bryce, I understand Arches, and I know Moab's awesome, but where's Canyonlands? Some people might think that. You don't realize that Canyonlands is the Moab area. Arches and Canyonlands are right there next to Moab. So we went down there and joined in on the fun with absolutely no one else there. It was so awesome. So if you guys are not familiar with exactly where everything is, let me just show you. Here is Moab up top here. And, the way that this is so far south, you would think that it's confusing is how you get there, but no, you drive up north from Moab and then get in a pathway that takes you down over here into this area. And let me zoom in on it. So in the Canyonlands, there's this big long stretch of really high elevated rock, and this is set on an extreme example, and Google even doesn't even have, they don't even have the right end to it. They kind of cut it off early. You can see the crinkled lines right here. That's where the actual cliff face is. And where I have this marker, there's a section right here where we are at. And I'll go into this panorama. Let's just go into it right now and I can show you guys this area that we captured a Milky Way. And this spot, I think I'm gonna take this tab off. You don't need to see any of this. Let's just go all Google Earth. There's a bush, there's a parking lot, and there's a cliff. If you guys saw my panorama, you'll probably recognize some of this view of this cliff plus the big footprint of the dinosaur that's taller than the atmosphere. And this area is the Island in the Sky and Grand Viewpoint. So when you come down this trail, man, this is an old picture. There's a fence now that goes all the way up until about this point or somewhere right there. And then you can cut off from that fence line and walk out onto these rocks where these people are standing. And it's not blocked off from people going out. You're allowed to go out on this rock. It's just they wanted to make sure that people felt comfortable with families and kids so they can go through here, and then they open up the fence line, whatever. So in this area, you can capture a shot of the Milky Way coming off this edge. That's what you've been seeing in the pictures in the time lapses before. And so if you guys aren't familiar with this spot, I want to show you just a couple little things about it and then show you the challenges that we went through. So I'm exiting the photo. Now I'm back up in here. If you've been to Mesa Arch, you've almost been here. Here's Mesa Arch. That's Mesa Arch area right off this road on the side. And this 3D panorama is going to take us into Mesa Arch, really into Mesa Arch. And this view out here in the distance, this vista of crazy, unique terrain is all the Canyonlands. And so it's, oh man, look at this. There's only one person there. Must be because the sunrise has long since happened and these guys are the ones remaining. But look at the view of Mesa Arch. If you've been there, you just got to keep going a little further on the road and then carry on all the way to the end and enter into the Island in the Sky area. And at the point here, you get a great view. If you recognize this, it's because that's the loop, or not that part, but this part's the loop of Dead Horse Point. So if you've been at the Dead Horse Point, you've been really close to Island in the Sky. And this is where you stand on the end of Dead Horse Point and look out over the cool gooseneck that is right there. So most of you probably know exactly this area. Some of you even joined in on the fun of a recent article on some stupid site that's just made by Google searching and Instagram images where it said 10 best things of Grand Canyon and showed a picture of Dead Horse Point. But this area is crazy dark. You can see that when you're here, you got Moab off to the left. And when you're out at the Island in the Sky, Moab is still, you're looking out this way, and Moab's up here and out of the way of the Milky Way core. When you're looking directly east, because here's north over that direction, this is what you see, and Moab is still far up here on the left side of your frame. So you won't have light pollution. You can see in some of the images I'm about to show you that light pollution does show up in a little bit, but nothing like you really have to worry about. Nothing at all. So here, let me show you some of the other cool stuff in this area. I'm going to kill Google Earth because it's just going to take up a lot of the live stream bandwidth doing that. So let's start right here. No, let's start over here. Let me show you guys our approach. I want to show you guys the time lapse first, because what happened was when we arrived with this situation of clear skies here and all around us with a couple clouds maybe, and it's going perfect, going beautifully. And then as we park, we realize that they're starting to form some clouds, and it's forming right here on top of our core. Well, these clouds grew from being a big long cigar going across the core to being a couple little marks, and then this. So I got out and I started a time lapse because I wanted to show how the Milky Way core sometimes gets a cloud right on top of it, where everywhere else you look, there's nothing. There's nothing in the way. But where you want to see clear skies, you got the dang cloud. So watch as this time lapse, you guys have already seen some of. Let's go down this way. Watch as this time lapse transitions. I'm probably going to have a better luck if I go through it this way. So you can see, here's the truck. I turn on the light, you can see the clouds moving across. And then when we open up a door, the rear light of that truck lit up and completely blew out frames. So we got a friend. He joined us here. Actually, it was Jamal. I think it was Jamal. I don't want to say Jamal every time I hear it, but Jamal. Jamal joined us from Boston. He's actually originally from Trinidad and Tobago? No, where did he say he was from? Can't recall it right now. I'll have to go back to the audio. And the video that's coming out tonight, at some point, the video will come out and you guys will see the full adventure. But he's joined us out here, and he was the only other vehicle that came out that night. And everyone just sat in their vehicle waiting as we looked out and saw clouds. Neil says Grand Viewpoint is so nice. You could just drive right up to it. Exactly. I mean, we literally walked down this pathway. See this fence I was talking about? Walked down this pathway 20 yards, and then went off in the rock. And so as I'm waiting for the time lapse to keep going and the clouds to change, clouds are kind of changing. And then, we're talking, well, let's see. The first picture was taken at what time? This picture, the very first one of my time lapse, was taken at, come on, move over just a little bit more. Oh, don't change for me. Okay, and let's go by name. Come on, name. And the other direction. If we look at the first one, 4:02, it says PM. It shows the edit that I made to it. Crud. Well, the original time was about 1 in the morning, and it went until about 2:30. So for an hour and a half, we're waiting for the sky to finally show us this. And with just this in the way, it was time. You can already see with just this very simply edited time-lapse image, you can already see light pollution is great. We're ready to go. I'm standing behind my camera now, and I lifted it up right off this point and then went straight out there. And going out to our spot, let's see. Because it's so dark, and because we had Jamal, I gotta say that right, Jamal, I couldn't record everything I really wanted to. That's really the only thing that could have gone better. One, I could have had 100% on zero clouds, but I was just grateful I had any time without clouds. We had a great night. So what could have gone better is to have no one else out there so that we could just go crazy with recording ourselves. So I couldn't record as much as I wanted to, but I still went for it. And so without even checking to see what Brendan and I say in this video,
that's really cool.
You guys probably can hear that. Here we go. We get behind our camera. We get out to location, and then I have Brendan film me here.
That's really cool.
This ice right here.
Makes you want to come back in the morning.
Let's pause that. This ice is all it is. This little puddle. And it has been frozen during the day when we saw it at sunset. When we came back, it was still really frozen and starting to get cool lines. And so that's the first place we set up. And we're checking this out. And so I'm setting up right here. And with that, I'm only able to capture, I'll go back here and slide over this way. Don't play anymore? Yes. Here's the shot with the ice. It didn't quite turn out. I mean, there was light from Jupiter really bright right here. The height of my camera tripod, so I guess another what could have gone better is get your camera on top of the ice. You can't just take the picture from here and hope that that reflection will be there. You need to get down, kiss the ice, and capture the shot. And Brendan and I talk about that. Whether we recorded it or not, we talked about how that was probably the way it needed to go. But at this point, we only had another hour and maybe 10 minutes left of dark skies, and we were hoping to get over to Mesa Arch as well, which we did not get a chance to do. Just totally ran out of time. But we wanted to hurry, so we got out of this position. I tried a couple shots. It's okay. So then Brendan, as I'm taking my last bit of my panorama, towards an hour later, he had some time, and then he captured this, my favorite shot. That's with the camera right there kissing the ice. And with it kissing the ice, you can now see Jupiter up high. You got the Antares star right here, Antares, and you got the Milky Way core glistening in the bright parts of the Sagittarius constellation right here. And Saturn is one of these. I believe Saturn is this right here. Jupiter, Saturn, and then Venus came up later. In the video, we called it Saturn because we thought, oh, it must be Saturn. It must be spread out more, but no. This just got lost with all the other stars. It was so crazy clear, such a crazy dark sky sight that we could appreciate seeing that as just a regular star. We didn't know it was a planet. So this I love. I love seeing me out there. You see my hand up there and it's glowing. It's because I did not have a shutter release. So I guess what also didn't go well, I keep thinking there's only one or two things that didn't go well, and I keep finding more. I didn't have a shutter release. And so this camera, I'm sitting there actually holding it down on bulb for a minute. A little bit over a minute. I'm holding my phone with one hand, watching it do a stopwatch for a full minute, and I'm holding down the button. And I'm trying not to move the camera at all, obviously, during this, as I'm holding the bulb down to see the terrain. You saw that vista view. You can't see that with the regular exposure, and I'll show you that here in a sec. It's just black. And so trying to get the shot, I needed to see my camera running. I needed to see my phone. And so I have a little orange glow happening on my light as my hand is being held down on that shutter, and their little LCD screen on the top is lighting up my hand, which is nice because then you get some definition in the shadow, that silhouette of Aaron King standing here with snow pants on. And it was cold and windy, but nowhere near like what we thought. We felt awesome. Are you strategically blocking that light bloom? I am not. I had no idea it was where Brendan would line me up. It just happened. It just happened to be. And you can see how those low clouds bring little light blooms way up. That area right there is most likely Monticello. And look at how that little tiny city lights up those clouds that much. And so this is a meteor right there too, by the way. Let's look at the next picture. So Brendan captured this. This was one of his first shots, and this is one of his longer exposures that he could do with Magic Lantern. I don't remember how long. It has the information in the video that I'll put out there, and if it's not saved in his image in the background, I'll be able to ask him for it. Rob says something. Does your camera not have a time function where you hit it to start and then hit it to stop again, Aaron? I most likely actually have that. I just never do it. I never use bulb mode. I either have Magic Lantern on a card, which I didn't have this trip, or I use 30 seconds and that's it. And so I just don't think about it. And so instead of just a start and a stop, I had to hold the bulb mode down. So there's other ways to do it with a shutter release, or maybe even a functionality that Nikon has in the D850 where you can tell it to start stop instead of holding it down. So I got to look into that. There's most likely an option that's better than what I got. But here's Brendan's cool image showing how long he had his bulb down just because of this long stretching star trail. This is all one image, and it looks really cool. And here's his one pano. And so this is a vertical pano he captured down and then got 2 or 3 images total to capture the Milky Way going up much later in the night. You see this bright spot right here? This is Venus coming up in the distance. It looks like light pollution, but you'll see it later. It comes up almost orange as it's low on the horizon. So why 60 seconds? In my case with 60 seconds is that it was enough to bring out the foreground. As far as the sky, you only needed the regular 13 seconds, 8 seconds, whatever your personal preference was, and whatever ISO you set, because man, this Milky Way shined in this dark sky sight. It was fantastic, and you can see the clouds that were there are all tiny and nothing, just nothing. And so that's Brendan's last picture. So we'll go into mine. This is the panorama of that whole area. And this panorama is a pain in the butt to do when you're doing a long exposure. So I captured just for the sky a bunch of times, and then I went down, and then I had to hold each one of these for a minute and hope that I wasn't moving too much. Thankfully, I didn't have to worry about star trails changing. If it kind of moved a little bit, I don't think it was noticeable. Either I did perfect in holding still, or it just turned out a lot better than I thought. What camera am I using? This right here is the 5D Mark IV using the Rokinon 24mm. So I did not use my wide angle Tamron this time. I just used the Rokinon, if I'm not mistaken. No, I think I did use the Tamron. We'll see it here in Lightroom in a second. So this is the picture I want to show you guys a little more detail in Lightroom. And let's close this. So here's the final, but you can see down here below, look at this. This is my sky, and there's 10 images, I think. So, yep, it is the Tamron, 15mm Tamron going 13 seconds, 2.8, ISO 8000. So I started way off of the core, then I captured one with the core near the middle, and then I captured the core again in the middle, and then from there, I think I took a little bit more liberty in jumping and jumping further. See how I have all that extra space above? I knew my bottom foreground was not important because I was going to get another layer, so I got as high as I could and got lots of extra space above the arch of the panorama. So before you actually start capturing, one thing you should think about doing, and my 60D is not somewhere nearby, so let's do this by holding it, but when you have your camera out, you're on your tripod, and depending on how your balance is, you could be tilted when you turn off this way, but then straight this way. And you don't want to have this weird tilt that happens. So before you start capturing, make sure you test it for how flat am I all the way around. On your camera tripod, on your ball head, typically you'll have a leveling bubble. And you want to get that as level as you can with all of your legs perfectly level so that it turns, no matter what direction, it's not going up and down. It's not doing this weird up and down. Everything's downstairs in the garage. I can't grab it. So I had to make sure that going all the way far left where I wanted to go was level, and then going all the way far right was level, and that everything was kind of working together before I captured this shot. Then I did my panorama. So then you can see all the frames. What was this? 10 images. All those 10 images, I created the panorama, and that looks terrible. That's this one right here. And it comes in Lightroom kind of funny at first, and then it catches up and gives you the full look. So here's the panorama stitch of the sky only. Then after I finished this area of the ground, or of the sky, I went straight and did the ground, but I tilted more down. See this? We're going to talk about that in this. So then I go through and go on for long, 61 seconds. You can see up here, 61 again. And this is holding the bulb, so I can't believe I was that consistent. 62, 60, and then continued on and on and on, and then capture where Brendan was. But I actually didn't capture the sky this far. So you'll see in my stitch, here's my stitch of the ground. And then I took both of those right here I did all my processing before I did my panel stitch. Now that they're stitched together, I took both of those into Photoshop and I laid them out and added this together. So you can see how my sky has this big gap. Now, I didn't take enough of the sky to overlap where I went on the ground, so I couldn't include any of Brendan's camera, which I usually like to do. So going through this process in Photoshop is quite a hassle. So I want to show you guys not this image, but one of the images that I captured. In here, in Photoshop, you bring in these two layers. Just so you know, in case you're not familiar, you can click on, say, this, and then say Edit in Photoshop, or you can go Open as Layers in Photoshop and do Open as Layers in Photoshop. That's the real key for making these go into the same file. They open up as layers, and now you can quickly connect them. So let's turn off the masked one. You can see my sky, and you can see my ground. Sky and ground. You can see how I have a nice easy terrain. This isn't something nuts with a bunch of tree branches and everything to work around. I was able to just have a nice clean easy line to work with, but still masking that isn't simple. Let me show you what I mean. I put a mask on this image, and let's start painting out some of the bottom here. See, this is on black. If I switch this over with the hotkey X, this goes to white, and then it'll paint white on this square, or if I switch it back with black, it'll paint black on this square. Okay, so this is doing a brush that has a flow and opacity of 20 and 12. So let's change this to 100%. So now at 100%, you can see what I'm basically doing is taking this bottom part of this top image and saying, I don't want any of it. I want the image that's below that, and I'm painting out the mask. So this is one quick way that you can mask in the bottom of your image. But then the challenge happens, the major challenge, the challenge of making this not look stupid, because it could look really stupid really fast. Watch this. Okay, I want my horizon. Let's go for it. Okay, wait a sec. Okay, I'll just go to the sky. No. You can see how the brightest part of that distant lower half is showing up underneath a kind of darker part of the upper half. So then if I switch my colors and try and paint it back, let's see, I switch colors, paint it back. Nope, it didn't switch colors. Switch colors and paint it back in. Let's try keeping more of the dark side with the light stream. Live stream, it kind of makes this a little wonky and delayed, but you can check it. You can see it basically. Now it looks really stupid because now I have this weirdly black silhouetted part with this glow of that down there. So you're going to find how much of a hassle this can be. Let's close off this layer and turn on the layer that I actually did. Now you guys are going to start to see and notice the flaws you probably didn't see before. Let's open up my mask. If I go into the selected mask, you're going to see where my mask is and how it's chopped in. It just has a gradient, and the gradient painting between there and there, it's almost just sheer luck sometimes. You draw a stripe and you're like, whoa, wait a sec. The way that I had the low opacity, low flow, and then where I struck that brush stripe, it kind of turns out. It's very simple looking when you just look at it, but it does turn out just right. So let's see. I want to see the channels. Let's turn off all of these so that you guys can see. Let's turn on that so you guys can see what it is. See my white area? Everything white is showing the sky, and everything black is the other layer. It's just completely gone. So all the transition from pure black to white, all these gray shades, they're bringing some of the images from above down here in this section. So there's a transitional point from here to here where I'm going from the bright spot to the bright spot ground and connecting them and overlapping some elements. See how there's a section of black right there, like a little bit more black than there. With all of that combined, I was able to make it look almost natural, like as it went toward the distance, it got less detailed and was blacker, but also wasn't too bright on the top. Let's go back to the layers. I want you guys to see these differences, and I'm going to kill this. Yep, I want to delete. So this versus this. See the clouds up here, how white they are, and then in the tops in the sky they become this gray. So when I put on my blend, I get this kind of blend between the gray and the white clouds, and that becomes more natural. When you go on the right side of the image, look at the clouds above here and these silhouette. There's no detail at all on these mountains, but in the ground I actually see snow on the mountain. So in the final, I had a little bit of both. A little bit of snow showing up. Like I said, it can be almost luck brushing those just right. It's a challenge. Ditch that paintbrush. So Phil Sisto wants us to go into an advanced class and do luminosity masking. Now, guys, when I'm teaching something like this, I'm trying to teach it for a level that's more accessible. Everyone can do, even people who've never done any in-light Photoshop stuff. But there's a lot more easier ways to do this, but are more complex and require to learn things like luminosity masks. And so like Phil Sisto says, totally right. Drawing a brush across this is not as easy as telling it to use a luminosity mask. Well, it will actually look at the hue and the values and then choose things all over the place for you based on that value. Imagine you dropped a bunch of M&Ms on the ground. Here, let's go big on me. You drop a bunch of M&Ms on the ground, and you drop a bunch of rice, dry rice. You look at that ground, and you see M&Ms everywhere and rice everywhere, and there's a spot on top where there's a ton of rice, and a spot on bottom where there's a ton of M&Ms, and then there's those M&Ms and rice that intersperse with each other. If I could tell a vacuum to only suck up the M&Ms, and I ran that vacuum over that whole square, rice was left behind, the M&Ms are gone. If I could tell a vacuum to do that. Luminosity masks are like that, where you can tell it to choose a value. What if I said I want all the blue M&Ms to be triggered as well as the rice? There's a way in luminosity masking where I can tell it that, and then when I click on it, it's selecting all the blue M&Ms, none of the yellow, none of the orange, none of the reds. All the blue M&Ms are selected, and I had all the white rice. So now I'm saying, now I'm going to take those blue M&Ms and white rice, and I want to change some sort of slider, some change of hue, change of brightness, change of contrast, and affect only those. Thanks to Luminosity Mask, I can do that. If I take a brush and I paint over, here, I'll go back to this screen again. Take a brush and I paint over this whole space right here. Let me just go on a tab I can. If I go brush, boom, 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 it's going to hit anything inside here, whether it's blue M&Ms or yellow M&Ms. It's going to hit everything. But what if that brush was focused and only hit the blue M&Ms as I strike it across? I strike it across, strike it across. Now I'm only affecting what I want to do, paint darker or include in the mask, anything that I've told it to select. And that's what luminosity masking can do for you. You don't have to be precise. You don't have to use a brush. You don't have to hope and do these like lucky strikes. You can just tell it which value do you want to focus on, lights, darks, mids, and then which part of that section of mid do you want to focus on. And there's some really great luminosity masking tools in Greg Benz's Lumenzia. I use TK Actions panel, and use is a loose term since I think I haven't turned it on in over a year. And so you guys can take advantage of these tools and advance to that point. But we're just starting on what is very accessible to everyone right now. So awesome. I need one of those vacuum cleaners, Neil says. Yeah, no dancing. Notice I'm sitting down, Neil. No dancing for you guys today. So this image right here was a challenge to blend together to bring about the sky in the dark, and man, that panel was a pain as well. But as I stitched together, you can see that I was able to get out this part right here. Well, how easy was that? Crazy easy. Let me show you guys that just because it'd be fun to show you it. Let me go ahead and edit in Photoshop, and I'm not going to do it in layers because there's only one image, one layer. So while that loads, I'm going to show you guys another clip. Let's do...
And really hard to take a photograph of, you know?
So this is Brendan getting ready to capture another shot. He's already captured me, and he's up here on the ice, and he's trying to find his way of doing it. Because we didn't have the light on too much, you can't see it. Maybe as he walks.
Let's see, let's go to the ledge.
Okay, here we are walking to the ledge. And you can see in the dark, I'm trying to do this, record him, and not walk off the ledge myself. Careful steps, careful steps. And then that ledge, oh no, I just want to pause it.
Right, because I mean, right there.
Yeah, that is the cliff edge. Yet the feeling of this space, because there's very sturdy rocks, large rock slabs that you're standing on, it has no more of a feeling than standing in a driveway with grass right there. You don't feel the edge, and it wasn't windy that morning, so it's fantastic. So if you come here with the fear of heights, it will be difficult, but if you have a slight fear of heights, I don't think you have any issue, even though that is the cliff edge that you fall to your death. There are some little outcroppings of rocks underneath you that you can think in your mind, I'll fall and hit those. I'm not going to die. But you stay back from the ledge as best you can. You don't want to get too
drop
close.
off, so maybe we just mosey up to the edge of it.
So we stood back quite a bit and still captured some cool shots. So Phil Sisto and his free easy panel is awesome too. His free easy panel. I guess easy panel is another option if you guys are checking it out. Jimmy McIntyre's Raya Pro and Instamask is sweet. Free easy panel. I'm not sure which one he's referring to, but yeah. So here we are in Lightroom, or I'm sorry, in Photoshop. And I have this light. I put it down what I thought was off to the side, which I wouldn't be in my way. And then my panel brought me all the way to the edge. So let me show you guys real quickly how easy we have it in Photoshop. In Lightroom, you can kind of do this with a spot tool, but let's just do it in Photoshop real fast. Very simple. I'm going to grab a polygon tool. I could just do this and grab the entire section of this space, but everything within my selection, will I be able to undo that, deselect? Yeah. Anything within my selection is going to have to be processed, meaning it's going to do a content-aware fill. And I don't want all of that to happen. I just want it to happen where I need it. So let's just go up here and keep it nice and close, but also I don't have to be too picky. Go up to the inside, go off over here. I think I may have gotten a little bit of the black on that other leg, but who cares? This is a good example. And by selecting this, I can do Shift F5 and it brings up this fill request. And the fill request will typically be on background color, foreground color, or content aware. And I just do content aware, hit OK. And now it's going to take the stuff information around it and say, okay, being aware of the content around it, I'm going to fill in this selection with that. And you can kind of see how it left almost a shadow of color that also makes it look like the tripod with the light on it. So I'm going to go over here to this tool, and it's a spot healing brush. And I'm using content aware still, and with it being this size, I'm just going to kind of paint a little bit. And oh, that's a really small brush. But just kind of doing weirdo lines. I wouldn't do squiggly lines like I'm doing. It's just the live stream fighting me. And you can get this section anywhere that you paint to grab another content aware and gives it some more randomness on the color, looking more like the rocks, bring in some other sections. It's kind of like that. And then quickly, without ever knowing it, that's gone. Now, it's definitely a lot more visible in my version here, but you can see in Lightroom, when you look at the final, you kind of, now that you know that it's there, you see a little bit of my shadow still left behind right there, but you wouldn't know it. You guys, I bet you didn't know it when you saw this image before. You had no clue that it was there. So that content-aware feel can be very, very easy to fix and get stupid things out of your way, and voila. Et voila. Mwah. So don't want to save that. And any other... I never thought to use a selection like that to content-aware feel stuff out. Oh, awesome. I actually taught Rob Ryan something. Yes. Viet Nguyen, hello from Houston, Texas. Hey, man. And I haven't seen any all caps questions come through. Let me show you real quick while you guys see if you have any questions you wanted to ask me. I'm going to show you real quick the time-lapse video again with the song, and then we'll come right back and end this Milky Way Wednesday together. Footprint is so cool. It's so awesome. Venus creeping up looks so cool. Yeah, doesn't it, Phil? It really did. And, oh, you're so confused by it. So Phil says, hey, quick question for Andy. Do you ever consider airline flight paths when you select a location to shoot? I wish I could. Unfortunately, southern Utah is freaking covered in them. I don't think my time lapse actually reveals it all that much, but let's check it out. So if I pull up this video, sorry, that is very loud. Let me use QuickTime real quick, and I can turn my volume down. And if you guys see it on here, look for any flights coming through the time lapse, because there are several, especially when you get south like Escalante, Garden Valley. You saw the flights over there. There's a couple of airline flights going through. I just have never been able to avoid it. That was a satellite. There's a flight. Big old flash blinding us. It's really, really crazy hard to avoid the flight paths. And so you get really good at clone and using the content-aware fill tool as you go through. The reason why I knew that was a flight is because it had double lines, two wings going out, you know, and they have these little lights, and so that came across. And there's also satellites that'll constantly be in your frame, and that's okay. Satellites look kind of cool. Their constant white light is kind of neat, but then sometimes you want to get rid of them. In fact, this image right here, you can't see it in this final one, but I had a satellite that was going up here, and then went over here, and then went down there. So as it was coming across the sky, as I did my sky time lapse, I got it in there in 4 or 5 different images, and so it shows up throughout my shot. And I got rid of it. I did a content-aware healing brush real quick, and got rid of them in the sky so that they wouldn't be distracting from everything else down here. And so they are not a big issue. Most of them are behind him. So he's probably thinking, Richard Liggett probably... Liggett? I think Liggett. But Richard says, you know, the path is most likely behind me at this point where the flight paths go. I don't know where all of them are. I just know that I've had some really bad places, and for the most part, I must always see them, and so I don't even think about avoiding them anymore. I have the International Space Station, my shots from this weekend. Wow. Rob Bryan caught the International Space Station. I have not caught it in a couple years. I need to get back out there. So, any other questions that are coming through? Andy, hopefully that was good. Oh, yeah, and I got to give credit to Nick Page. Phil, you says that I myself and Nick Page are the only two photographers you've seen mention that tool. In 2016, I learned that Photoshop had content aware fill from Nick Page. So credit to you, Nick Page. I learned that from you in 2016. I had no idea. Sometimes when Photoshop does updates, I don't check. I don't know why, but I don't check and see what they have. And I was like, wait, what's this? What's content aware? And I went into it and I'm like, oh my gosh, my life has changed. My days of cloning are over. And so yeah, credit to Nick Page actually. So Joshua Tree is really bad for planes. Yeah, I bet. Oof, I can't remember how bad it was when we were there. But yeah, most places have it. You just got to get away with it. So any other questions? Let's end Milky Way Wednesday. Went for 40 minutes. Really appreciate you guys hanging out with me and doing Milky Way Wednesday. So thanks guys for watching. I'm Aaron King with Photog Adventures, and we'll be back. Well, plenty of other content coming out, but Milky Way Wednesday will be back next Wednesday at 7 p.m. See you guys. Have a nice night. See ya.